Hello, everybody. Let's call the Rules and Regs Committee to order. I'm really excited about this particular foraging through the weeds because this is the last of documents that is the most difficult to understand, right?
That is correct.
Huh? I always do because I get excited.
But guess what? We can't approve those minutes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Second.
All right.
I'll make a
All in
motion. Jan
favor?
seconds. All in favor?
Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll probably do that every
Great
time. But at any
Great
rate,
job for me.
but in all seriousness, I know that this is, I know the two of you, Tom and Doug, have put a lot into this, but could we get started and you kind of tell us where we need to start?
Got it. So let's, so articles, I'm going to pull up the articles of incorporation on the screen. And let's see what I got here.
Is that some kind of ancient codex there at the
Yeah,
top?
exactly.
Hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is the,
Those are all the.
that's it. That's not the, that's not what, oh boy. That's not what we wanted on there. And the other one is, okay, we're not doing it the modern way, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. So in your board packet, you will see that we've included a number of changes. I think this is page 3 of your board packet, and for those at home, this is available on our website. You'll see that we've made a number of changes. So where in the past we've gone through, you can sit here because I don't have anything for up there. In the past we've gone through and we recommended changes to the language of the policy. In this case, we didn't want to do that because the articles are, they're just a different animal altogether. And so what we did was, if you read the note at the top, the articles in the original form can be challenging to read and understand. This document is a compilation of the articles to make the information easier to understand. The articles of incorporation in their original format are available on the POA's website and should be considered the official documentation if there are any discrepancies. So what we've done is leave the articles the way they are. Those are the official document. And then what we've done is we've added definitions, and under almost every section, we've added notes to clarify this is what you're looking at. This is what this means. Under the corporation is comprised of that property said in the declaration, we've added a note under there that the corporation is responsible for the parks, playgrounds, pools, golf courses, and so forth. Later on, we say, note, keep in mind this document was created in 1965, and there have been been many changes in the decades since the founding of the community. Garbage and trash service are now taken care of by a third party. Fire and police protection are handled, so we did a different approach, and we think it makes sense. We did in our document do a compilation of all the changes, because if you read through the articles, you'll see there's been multiple changes. I think the main one that comes to mind is the number of board members required to change the articles of incorporation went from 5 to 6 to 7, back to 6, back to 5. I mean, it's changed like how many times?
3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times. So we actually, in this document, we actually went and found the last one and included that. Because when you look at the articles, you have to not only look at the articles, you have to look at all the amendments, because those have an impact. And so it's very easy for people to go through and not realize that they have to look at the other documents.
Or just stop somewhere and make that a fact.
Absolutely. And so we think that by including the notes section, so what we would envision is this, let's call it a companion document. The companion document would be listed first on the website, and then right behind that would be the actual articles of incorporation. So if we get a one-time viewer of our articles, person only looks at it one time, they're trying to find one specific thing, they're going to see the companion document first, and that should make it easier for them to understand.
So like a drill down sitting behind it
No,
or
ju-
in
ju-
line?
just imagine,
Okay.
the companion document is
First.
5-6 pages long, and then the articles are
Oh,
10,
okay.
and we just stack them on top of each other, and they read them in totality. Hopefully they'll read them in their totality.
Okay.
So that's what we're recommending. The difference between the red and the blue is first draft, second draft
Okay.
on your screen.
Yeah, well, I've got it here in front of
Yeah,
me too.
and that's, I made the first attempt in red, and then Doug corrected me.
It was a joint effort.
It was a joint
Yes.
effort.
Well, you know, people read things differently.
He only yelled at me 4 times. It's not that big a deal.
So Tom, this really is an annotated version of the original documents for clarity's sake, for transparency.
Yeah.
Doesn't really change anything, it just interprets in plain language what the document says.
We talk about what Class B is, and because if you don't read the declaration, if you don't have a full understanding, you're going to be like, well, what is Class B? I think one of them is it talks about in Article Roman numeral 9, dissolution, and that comes up every once in a while, and so we included a note. While it's referenced, there's a dissolution. You then have to reference back to the declaration of how the dissolution would occur. And so we've incorporated, and so we go, note of approximately 39,000 members of the corporation, at least 2/3 or approximately 26,000 members must vote yes, assent for the vote. So we add more clarity. So if someone goes and just looks only at the articles of incorporation, they're going to go, okay, well here's an easy way to do this.
Yeah.
And then they see the notes and they go, oh, this is a little bit more challenging than
This
I thought.
provides a context
Yes.
for the original
Yeah.
documents.
Well, thank you. It's been a shame it's taken this long to have some sort of cheat sheet for how to break this stuff down. And as people cycle in and out of leadership in the community over the decades, having any type of, library of knowledge is just really worth its weight. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Was there any particular area that was more challenging than others?
The format was the hardest. I think I went into Doug's office multiple times, and my original thought process is we were going to do it the same way we did all other ones, and the board would vote to change the articles. That was the original mindset, and I kept on coming in and out of Doug's office, and just, I'm struggling. This is not working, and that's when he yelled at me.
Get out of my office.
Get it together, Judge.
And then when we came up with the companion document, and I showed him that and the notes, I think it took him a little while to sign on, because it was, once again, a very big departure from how we were doing it in the past. So I think the start was the hardest. Just
Okay.
how do we start? How do we do this? But once we got a format in place, then it got easier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shall we plow through some of it? Or
Absolutely, we can. Yeah, we can.
because this is going to be something that's going to be helpful, and the more people that we can start to look at it, out there, the better.
Well, let's start on page 3, and I already read the initial note, and we include the initial note which points towards the articles. That way, if there's any discrepancy at all, we've clearly stated, go to the articles. Because in some cases, these are interpretations. So go to the articles, We include the definitions. We have a definitions page for the policies, but remember, those definitions are limited to those sections. So this is a definitions for just the articles. And then we cleaned up, because the name of the organization has changed a number of times. Really, in the early years, it changed several times, so we've made it easier. Who is the was it Country Club or Cherokee Village Corporation for So. Then, this document, this is on page 4, towards the bottom of page 4. This document talks about all the swimming pools, golf courses, common streets. Well, this document was created in '65, and there was no City of Bella Vista, there was no Republic Trash Service, there was no Village Wastewater, there was no, there was none of that.
Question, Tom, in any of your research on Bella Vista and how this development came to be, was there anything that pointed to a future where they wouldn't have to handle so many of these services? Did they have in their mind, I just imagine when you create 39,000 lots, you imagine in your business plan that 50% of them sell at least. I know there's a lot of dog lots up there, so they had to have anticipated 20-something thousand people here at the start of this development, and I'm wondering if there's any documents that talk about a succession plan for how they would not have to, because at this point, even 1,000 people, I would need so many more services. At 5,000 people, I would need so many more services, so many more police officers, so much fire department, all the things that they ran into. Did they have anything like this, or was it just all the way up until 2000, they just did it the way they were going to do it?
To look back, as frustrating as the governing documents can be sometimes, to look back through the specter of it's been, 60 years, it's really easy to throw stones.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't think, we do know this is that they made changes to the governing documents when they created Hot Springs, which was created 5 years after us. And
Some learnings.
Yeah, Hot Springs is allowed to have a cost of living increase voted upon by the board. That's the main reason why they're at 110 and we're at 40.
And we have so many more amenities.
So it's there's nothing in there that contemplates that. But over time, I think it evolved.
Yeah, I guess
Yes.
The history of Bella Vista is always develop and then sell it. It's kind of been what the early two had done, and Cooper ended up just holding it longer. But anyway, I guess where a lot of people are still confused is what does this mean for Cooper now? Where are we at with Cooper now in control of these type of residents? It's their name everywhere. Cooper Communities.
They're still the declarant.
They're
They
still
still have the declarative rights, which for normal day-to-day operations for the POA is not an issue.
Yeah.
But as the declarant, they could expand the POA, meaning, they want to add 30 acres on the east side or on the west side, or, they could do that. They have that authority as what we call them is they're the big D developer. The developer as opposed to the small D developer that's building 2 or 3 homes on your street. Those are small Ds. Doug doesn't always like this because it's not legal enough. But, you know, they're the original. So they are the declarant. They have certain rights that are afforded to them. And that's why we continue to maintain a good relationship with them.
Well, and some of those rights are good for us. They're not? Well, adding properties.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, that would be good, but, you know, but you have to keep it, you have to do that in judiciously. If they were to add 5,000 homes and not add any amenities, we might get their additional assessments, but we're gonna have to start building very quickly to accommodate all those additional users of the gyms and so forth.
Gotcha.
In the past, the way Cooper did it is they would build the west side and build a lake and a golf course, you know, Loch Lomond Highlands, Branchwood, and all of a sudden that makes that area a great area to live. And then they sign over ownership of those amenities to the POA. Well, God forbid they create 5,000 homes. This is an extreme example, and don't add any amenities. That would be a problem.
Okay.
Maybe I'm mistaken, but in that scenario, which I think isn't too far reaching, and as one as we look at the year after year home growth, and we imagine that their amount of acreage would be expanded into additional homes and thus push up to 39,000 to possibly 40,000 and above. I thought there was something where at a certain size that the development was required to have some element of commons, maybe not common space, but some amenity. There's nothing at all that says in an expansion that they would be required to either create more land for amenities that the POA would offer. There's no kind of this and that.
There's nothing in there. But realistically, you know, people ask me every once in a while, what is the maximum number of homes in Bella Vista? There's 39,000 lots, but what's the maximum? And I've come up, this is not the most scientific, but I think it's about 20,000. And here's how I get to 20,000 is you first eliminate about 8,000 homes, and by the time that we're at 15,600 right now. So it's going to take years. You know, if we continued with 500 every year, which is a questionable assessment, you're looking at 10 more years of building. So by then you're looking at there's going to be about approximately 10,000 lots owned by the neighboring home, buffer lots, I call them. So you go from 39,000 to 29,000 really quickly. And then you eliminate thousands of lots that are really not buildable because they're 0.25. Because back when Cooper was developing, you could get a septic on a lot of 0.25. Now you really need 0.33. You can build a 1-bedroom home, maybe a 2-bedroom home on a 0.25, 0.27, or you go vertical. Doug and I were talking about that. But it gets very limiting because of the change in the septic. They didn't change the rules in 2016, but they changed the application of their rules. Mm-hmm. And so that changed the dynamics of the community. So you have thousands of lots that are going to cost potentially more to build on, or you can only, how many builders are going to want to do a spec home on a 1-bedroom? It's not a lot. So that's a challenge.
And there's the minimum guidelines through the ACC.
Mm-hmm. Okay, with all the setbacks and the square footage requirements, and you have a small lot, and then you have the septic requirements, and all of a sudden, I don't think 0.25 is enough. They do them, but it just makes it more challenging. So at the end of the day, that's how I get to $20,000, 20,000 homes. I think that's a reasonable number.
And I guess we don't know just from whoever pays water. I know there's some people that wouldn't every water bill kind of equal a home? But I guess there's condos and.
Well, there's 15,600 doors, units, meters.
Water meters.
You did put your thing on.
It's on, but I'm just
Way
too
back.
far away from my mind.
Yeah,
He's very
there's
quiet.
some that Concordia,
Yeah, we don't need to get into
that kind of stuff. But so that's how I get to 20,000.
As we're experiencing all this with Tom, is there a section of land that we think we're going to probably be looking at to kind of consider for additional amenities in the future, or do we see an area with? How do we weight the two sides about? How do we weight the cardinal directions of Bella Vista on amenity access? And
You know, I would say this is all our amenities at some point as we get larger and larger are going to require expansion. All is probably not the right word, but Met Field. We need a bigger gym at Met Field. How are we going to accomplish that? Do we add on to the side of the building? You know, that probably makes sense. The location of our three gyms makes complete sense. East, west, and central. You know, everybody's got a 5-minute drive to the nearest gym. That's reasonable. We have enough land around all of them that we could add on to each of the buildings. So that's a good one. The beach was not big enough the day we opened it up.
but now with the new trail, that should give a little bit more another outlet.
That could we potentially expand that one? Or could we potentially do another one, which gets pretty costly? So I think we're keeping up with it right now. We added the additional square footage at Branchwood. We added the additional square footage at BVRC.
Which looks great, was over there yesterday.
And so that's gonna help us. Yeah, we're gonna constantly be fighting that as we get larger and larger. You know, if 500 becomes a small number, you know, if it like were to all of a sudden the economy were to go crazy and we'd be doing 800 a year, then those problems are gonna catch up with us quicker than, you know.
Well, I was just on Judy where the Chelsea kind of issue is over there. You know, where you have to take the detour right now. And man, there's 4 new homes just on that little street being built right now. And it's pretty wild.
Jan, I'm curious about the house on the corner turning into Kirkpatrick. It looks really small. That lot's not very big, and the only thing I can think of is up.
Yeah, they haven't framed it as a 2-story, but we're
Not
seeing
yet.
a lot more 2-stories
But
being
where are they
framed.
going to put the septic?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I think probably just as you're talking about, more and more in the future with the development, it's going to be more and more challenging. For an older home like mine, it's pretty easy. A lot of space there, but the lots get smaller.
Yeah.
Like been a rich discussion. I just wanted to make one comment about the document and pull us
what
back
we're here
to-
for?
You mean our subject?
No, this is a very fascinating discussion. I don't want to hijack it. I just want to make a comment here real quick. I've had a chance to look at some of these notes that are included, and I really think they're helpful. Just this one, I think it's on the first page with just the opening note and definitions. It says, note, the corporation was formed under the Arkansas Nonprofit Corporation Act of 1963, which has since been updated by the state of Arkansas, but this update does not apply retroactively to the corporation. Well, just that note alone has been an issue on my time and my time in the board that we've had to deal with. So having these kinds of clarifications, I think, is really going to be helpful for the community.
That jumped out at me too, Jan. Is what has changed in that may give people confusion that we're grandfathered in under?
In relation to that act specifically,
Yeah,
or other things that we're not thinking about?
that I guess just that act.
Yeah, when you're referring to that, there was an issue maybe 6 years ago, and I did a full analysis of the act. You know, the POA being formed under the 1963 Act and then the later acts. So there's a lot of material there to sift through. But just some of the things that the newer act requires is more, and we're very open with our meetings, but there's additional requirements that are there under the new act for public meetings and public disclosure of certain things. But I can share that with you if you're interested in some light reading.
So we get a little bit more of a cloak.
We get a little bit, yeah. There's, I don't know if that's the right term to use, but it's not. We have a little bit more leeway with how we run things. It's not as prescriptive as the later acts would require.
I think what happens sometimes is a person's reading the acts or something like that, and they're just picking and choosing, or whether on purpose or just through lack of understanding how it all works, and they're taking little samples or little couple sentences out of something and not realizing, well, that doesn't apply to us. It doesn't. If you read the entire act, when that came up a couple of years ago, it's a person had sampled so I went to the source ordinance, and in the preamble it said is not retroactive.
There you go.
It took me some work, but I got there, and so unfortunately that happens sometimes.
Yeah, the notes section are very helpful. That was Tom's idea to put those in there, and like you said, you're able to remember some of the issues that you've had in the past, that we've had in the past, and then address those preemptively with these notes is very helpful.
Well, it might lead to less misunderstanding if members will just take the opportunity to kind of see what's been developed for clarity's sake. It might lessen some of their frustrations or misinterpretations and start down a road that really isn't applicable. So I'm very pleased with this as a companion document. And I understand that the original has to stand on its own, and having it right behind this makes a lot of sense. But this just clarifies and opens it, and I just think that clarity is what we all strive for, at least in the board that I've been with.
We think it's going to help people understand it, and I think it may be a template that we use in the future that we can make things clearer, although I think we're running out of documents to look at.
I don't know.
Did you have any specifics that you wanted to call out, JB?
Well, not really. I just thought, because we have 30 minutes left, I think, this is the first meeting about this document. So I guess what I wanted us to do is get a really good overview, have you two point us to what I said a while ago. Where was the difficult part? But you said starting was the difficult part. But it's we're not going to get through much of anything today. But what do you guys think as far as if we got a good solid overview of where we should be looking, how we should be looking at it, and then next time we can dig in a little further into the actual words.
Yeah, and it seems that there are parts to it. There are the note section that breaks that out. There are definitions. Maybe we just look at some of the key notes that way, by example, that we will know when we look at many of them, some of them that are perhaps of more import.
Yes.
Then we'll know what those are, and so will our members know that, okay, notes will do this here's what it'll do for us. And then if we look at definitions, here's what those definitions are clarifying. So we look at it kind of by the genre of the changes or the way it's done. That might be a way to approach it. So we don't have to necessarily go through every single note,
Right.
perhaps every definition, but if we hit the key ones, that'll help clarify what this companion document is all about, how it's structured. And that might help not only us, help our board as a whole, and of course our members.
Yes.
That's a suggestion.
Looking forward here a little bit, it's interesting how you've rightfully redlined the names of the beginning directors, I suppose here. Oh, wait a minute. Directors shall be made by amendment to the Articles of Incorporation. Here are the names and addresses of those people. Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know any of them anymore, do you? Not really?
Jim Abrahams.
Jimmy, it's not 2:30.
At any rate, anything else, or
I'd say one other thing that, when we were going through this, we tried to keep in mind, different concerns that property owners have brought to our attention over time. So at the bottom of page 6, that's the voting rights, and one of the challenges, and we've had this one often, the 10 votes per lot. And I think this was an important one. The note Class B lots, which are owned by the developer or declarant, whatever you want to call it, are entitled to 10 votes per lot or living unit, may not cast these votes for the election of the director of the corporation. That was the really important note that we wanted to get in there, because some people have come to us and said, well, why did they get 10 votes and I only get 1 vote? And here's the interesting thing. While they may get 10 votes on the Class B side, they're the only ones that own Class B votes. So you can have 1,000,000 votes per lot. It doesn't matter because you own all of them.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. But you can't vote any of those when it comes to the board of directors.
And that's a good example of the kind of note that clarifies, and I think highlighting those that have come up in the past might be a good way to approach this document. That's great.
I see something that's interesting, being a fan of the trails here in the Article 6, refers to as the properties and for this purpose own, acquire, build, operate, maintain recreation parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, golf courses, common streets, footways, utilities, lakes, including building structures, personal property. A couple things there that jump out to me. Footways, interesting word, possibly could be depicted as trails and common pathways.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
I am on page 4.
4, okay.
And so that's interesting, but also something that's interesting there is the word acquire. And I guess acquisition for new things, how does that happen? Is it only the declarator, is only the Class B developer can acquire for the POA? No, because we bought Arkmo.
Exactly.
But that property was not brought under the
That's right.
control of the declaration, so it was a side asset.
And it was signed over to the POA to control. I thought it was members had made a collection to
Right,
purchase
but we purchased it, but it was never became part of land
It was
controlled
just like
by
a
the
bond or
declaration.
something.
So we would not have, let's say we had decided to build a golf course out there. We, without the permission of the declarant, we could not have run water
Yeah,
to the Arkansas
and actually develop it.
side,
Yeah.
let alone we can't run water across state lines, so we would have had water issue on both sides of the state line. There was serious issues with that property.
Yeah, I remember. And
So we can acquire, anytime we've acquired property, we've worked with the declarant to make sure, we just acquired property for the West Side Water Tower.
Yep.
And that is,
We had to purchase that from Cooper, though.
was not part of the POA.
Not part of the
It was
POA.
owned by Cooper. It was owned by the declarant, but separate
Yeah.
from the POA.
So in conjunction with the deed to the POA, they filed a supplemental declaration bringing that property into the POA,
I see.
which would, if we acquired additional property, we would likely go through that same process.
I see. So here's a hypothetical I'm thinking about. And I know we've somewhat missed the boat a little bit here in terms of, seeing the market before it blooms. But, why don't we have more guest rentals underneath the POA? I think that's been brought up a number of different times that, why aren't we Village Vacation Rentals? Why didn't we purchase 100 homes on the lakes to always have as a rental? Why is this not a revenue stream for us if other third-party investments are, or other, and what if we have a direct lead on properties that are in, financial trouble, because we see that with non-paid utilities, non-paid assessments. Is there the future where we start to look to acquire more things in the community, and those things could also be single-family residences or combinations of properties that make sense for us to maybe expand an amenity or allow for an amenity to have a secondary programming? Like, I'm thinking of even down at Tanyard, where that whole community is by Tanyard Creek. Oh, God, I wish we owned that whole community.
Right.
That would be
Greens-
so prime.
Greens to
Uh-huh.
timeshare over there,
Mhm.
or Trail's Edge apartments over there. The Trail's Edge, that would have been.
That's you. It
If,
should have been.
if we had the crystal ball, that would have been. Let's buy that and use that as vacation rentals. That would have. We would have been super smart if we had done that.
Yeah, I guess it's still not too far out of the realm of possibility as we kind of look to figure out some of the new hot spots in town where we may flex. And I'm also kind of thinking about when, we have people that may not have anybody to leave property to. Do we have a mechanism where people could leave us their property in their will or anything like that? A lot of places have those ways and lots of cities acquire land for parks and things because people will it to them.
The foundation, the Bella Vista Foundation, has tried to get endowments and stuff like that. We not necessarily with improved properties, but unimproved properties. We'll work with property owners and acquire their land. Because they've changed their retirement plans or whatever.
So if somebody's thinking of selling, they could come to us directly?
In some cases, yeah. Yeah.
It feels like our success selling the lots also makes me want to acquire more lots so we can continue to sell more lots, and because I think we've turned into a pretty good salesman.
Yeah.
We're probably right at the first moment there with the customers. We've done
only $1.5 million.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
So I don't know, maybe there's another mechanism as we think about 24 and beyond of, if I know this is a manpower thing, but would you like all those people that are in arrears on their assessments should also get a letter to sell back to the POA?
Already done.
Already done?
Okay.
It's already done.
Okay.
A couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I unfortunately have not received one of those letters.
Or at least not yet.
So you don't know what it says for sure?
Yeah. Okay, good.
We
Great.
work with property owners, and because sometimes the life changes, and they don't know what to do, and it's hard to get we have great real estate agents in Bella Vista, but an unimproved property, they can't make any money. They usually, they're going to put a lot of effort into selling a home where they make, I don't know how much a real estate agent makes on the sale of a home. Let's call it
3%.
3%. So, compared to,
3% on 300,000 is a lot better than 3% on 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
he got a solid C in algebra. Solid C.
Well, what else? We've got 20 minutes.
We have the other policy that we wanted to look at.
Well, could I go back to that
Sure,
footways comment?
Sure, absolutely.
I think
go for
that
it.
that would be one that I would look to maybe reclassify as trails.
But is it more than that?
I don't know.
Is it a
that's an
sidewalk that
interesting word,
eventually
and here
we
it
might-
is in the original thing, and there's been
Footways.
sticking points with who is on the hook to maintain, and we've been grilled time and time again for the 32,000 that we split with the city for maintenance of the trails. You know, and so maybe this is another piece of, you know, armor against the trails have always been a part of this community's aspect. They weren't necessarily always labeled that way. So that's something I'd like to pick on for this group, and thank you for spending the time to talk about acquisition. I do think that that's a powerful subject and one that we should dip into more often and understand more about. And really that kind of leads me into just investment protocols in general, right? You know, like what is our investment strategies? I understand the stocks and bonds, but you know, property is a major piece of that puzzle.
Yeah. Okay, the other policy you wanted to look at?
That was definitions. I think it's towards the very, very end.
Of the document?
It is on page 18,
All the way.
all the way at the bottom.
And we still find that these annual meetings dates are correct. Third Tuesday of May of each year.
Oh, those are in the declaration. Those
Yeah.
are in stone.
Yeah, it does not matter. Okay.
And so we only made one change on that, and that is, as opposed to going through, it's on 18, as opposed to going through and trying to make changes to every single reference to the general manager or COO
Yeah.
in all the policies, we just went with a global definition of CEO shall mean and refer to the chief executive officer of the association. Any references in the governing documents to chief operating officer or general manager are interchangeable with CEO.
Well, I could only imagine a Millennium CEO would wave his hand in a global way. Anyway, so it's okay. You didn't have to change every line.
Well, the number of policies,
I imagine.
it just.
And do we use like a search and replace in these documents? Has the original or whatever, how we edit this thing, is this loaded in a digital format so you can search and find words and auto replace them? So
Yeah.
But we're not going to auto replace it. So if it's in policy 2.11 or 2.22 and there's a reference to CO, we're not going to change that.
Okay.
We're just changing just one policy.
Okay.
Because I don't want to remember a year or so ago, and we had you guys make changes to like 15 policies.
Yes.
And you guys had to go around the room over and over again. We didn't want to do that. So we're just changing one.
But it
policy.
helped us work on our stutter. You know? I mean, come on.
And taking turns, teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork.
Good teamwork. Good teamwork.
You get the talk.
I did a control find on COO.
Yeah.
And when it came up 184 times, I thought, we don't want to go through every single policy. We'll implement the global change.
Well, you know, as many times as its mission, it must be important. So that's
Right.
good.
No, I think that's a really good call. I've always wondered about that.
That's probably one, I don't want to overstep, but probably one you want to vote on to push forward to the board.
Yeah,
Totally. We want to do that now? Say let's push this one forward?
Unless there's more
Okay,
discussion about it.
yeah, true. Anybody else have comments on that particular one? This is policy 1.00, correct? And we've kind of already done that, but we're making an additional input. So absolutely. Anybody have a problem with going on? And could I have a motion to present this forward to the board?
I move that we forward to the board policy 1.0 for consideration.
All in favor? Ta-da! Okay, thank you, because you're right. That one needs to get behind us so we can work on the bigger document as we go forward. Anything else before we close today?
Nothing, I would just kind of hope that we can talk next time about footways and what that means and how we can think about that. I really think that if we can also mean that that means trails, that I think that would be a victory.
But not just trails necessarily. I mean,
Yeah, I think it needs expanded on.
it needs more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it may be sidewalks later, you don't know, bike path.
And that's, the footways may be more than one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and it may just mean alternative transportation. You know, I don't know. It's pedestrian based right now when you say.
I think you could expand the definition.
Yeah.
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 You know.
Okay.
And I don't see any, you know, the articles sit above the declaration.
Right.
And so I was just perusing the declaration to see if it mentioned that term, and it doesn't. So to Tom's point, I think we can, you know, expand that definition.
Do you see this in your sleep?
I see all the highlights, you know.
Hey, you know, it looks like works good for people.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have done all the work, but this kind of thing just excites me beyond belief. I love this because you just want an easy way for people who really want to know what the answer is, a place to point them to. And there are always going to be those that don't want the answer, but it's okay. At least we're making it easier to find.
Yeah, we're in a very interesting financial model here, and it's one that is really above most any layman's life. You know, I mean, we're very, very unique. So being able to dip into how this is built, why this is built, what its impact has been, and a time of prospering community is really exciting because it took a lot of hard work and effort to get here, and it's a kind of a master class on business and development and community planning, and that's something really neat to be a part of. So thank you.
Okay.
So I'm hesitant to ask this question,
Uh-oh.
and Doug's going to throw something at me.
Here.
Here's that gavel. Yeah.
Do you want us to look at the declaration next and potentially go
Yes.
with the footnote, the notes approach?
Yes.
I don't see why you don't. I mean, I feel like if you have an active rules and regs board, the only reason I would say that we shouldn't is so another rules and regs board has something to do as well. You know, that would be my only reason not to take that on, is that, you know, after we've kind of systematically ticked through a lot of things.
Well, the next board's not going to be seated until June.
So we've got a lot of
So,
things we could do.
I think we get this done and then go ad
Yeah,
hoc.
Yeah.
If you guys like the format, which it sounds like you do like this type of
Format's
format,
excellent.
it would work the same way for
Yeah,
the declaration.
that's
So
what
maybe
I
have a goal of having it finished by the next election
Yeah.
cycle,
I think so.
and that gives us
That
enough
should give
time
us
to wade
enough
through
time
it.
because it's
It's
gonna
very detailed.
it's gonna be a lot.
Would that then complete the cycle with all the documents
Yeah.
Because that's the one
we're done.
hanging out there, right?
Yeah, we're done. And I think it would make it, it would address, you know, we consciously looked for, well, remember where that property owner brought that question up? Let's clarify that area, you know, so we did that over and over again. The declaration is taking that on steroids and really expanding it.
You want to hit for the cycle on steroids?
There we go.
Man.
Okay, if there's nothing else to talk about today,
You're giving us our marching orders on the declaration.
oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Actually, I'm not. This is very exciting and opposite of, well, not opposite, but in addition to what you said, I think it's something we could easily and feel good about handing over to a new committee.
Well, and I also want to recognize Jessica because the original articles you couldn't scan and copy. She had to retype
Oh, no.
everything.
What's your Guam?
So she might throw something at me about the idea about the declaration.
Well, you're both a victim of your own success.
Well, I heard
because think
HR
this
just had a
document is so
carpal
good.
tunnel.
Yeah.
It's worth doing the new one because this is so good,
Yeah.
you know.
I think
But
this
I
makes
bet
It
she
had to be
knows it
done.
by heart.
It
when
had
you,
to be done.
when you have to type something out, you remember it, every line and item. Okay, so if there's nothing else, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now adjourned.